Welcome to Sounds of Resistance channel. The conflicts between Ukraine and Russia have intensified over the past month and are reaching their climax. The explosion at the Kerch Bridge in the first week of October drove Vladimir Putin crazy, and then Russia launched heavy missile and kamikaze drone attacks on Ukrainian cities. Russian missile and air attacks were very intense and have been going on for about 10 days. But the Russian army, which has been shattered with heavy losses in Ukraine, cannot escape from being disgraced. In the latest intelligence reports, it was revealed that the targets of the cruise missiles sent to the city centers in Ukraine were the decision-making centers in Ukraine. However, the inability of Russia's high-precision missiles to hit even a single decision-making center in Ukraine after Vladimir Putin pushed the button added another to the incompetence of the Russian army in the last 8 months. The Russian army, which set foot in Ukraine on February 24th, has undertaken many different operations since then. However, none of these operations were successful. Having lost thousands of tanks and billions of dollars worth of weapons on Ukrainian soil to the Ukrainian armed forces, the Russian army has ruined Putin's dreams. While Putin, who became more angry with each loss, increased the dose of the attack, and the quality and quantity of what he lost increased. On the other hand, the Russian economy was paralyzed. The Russian army lost all its credibility. In the last attacks, the Russian army damaged the civilian infrastructure of Ukraine, but its military losses reached very serious proportions. The Russians launched missiles worth $400 to $700 million over Ukraine in half a day. Russia launched 84 cruise missiles and 24 unmanned aerial vehicles over Ukrainian territory. The total cost of these weapons is reported to have reached $700 million. The armed forces of Ukraine shot down almost half of these weapons. In total, 43 Iskander cruise missiles and 13 unmanned aerial vehicles were destroyed by the Ukrainian Air Force. However, as a result of the damage to the Ukrainian civilians in the attacks, it was announced that a large air defense support would come from the west to Ukraine. He estimates the cost of missiles launched over a wide range, since the exact number of missiles of all types is still unknown. It is stated that most of them are expensive, such as KH-101, KH-555, Caliber, Iskander, S-300, and Tornado. The total cost is calculated based on the assumption that the downed missiles are highly accurate KH-101 and tactical range missiles, and the rest are aimed at overloading the air defense. To go into more detail about the attacks, according to the Ukrainian General Staff, Russian forces launched about 30 KH-101 and KH-55 cruise missiles from Tu-95 and Tu-160 strategic bombers in Ukraine's critical infrastructure across Ukraine. But the Russian military has launched several unmanned aerial vehicles, including the types recently received from Iran, in addition to cruise missiles. One of the most widely used was the Shahed-136, a one-way attack kamikaze drone. According to the Ukrainian army, Russian forces launched close to 90 Shahed-136 mobile munitions, and Ukrainian air defense shot down about 50 drones. Shahed-136 is relatively slow. This makes it a fairly easy target for conventional air defense weapon systems and even small arms shooting. There are two ways to destroy these targets, which are generally easy to destroy. The first and easiest is to shoot down these drones. The second way is to make them fall with electronic warfare tools. However, it seems that the Russian forces are trying to defeat the Ukrainian air defense by using dozens of UAVs at the same time, thus allowing some of them to pass through Ukrainian defenses. The Shahed-136 can have a very long operational range but can only carry a very small explosive payload, making the drone largely ineffective for operational or strategic attacks. While Russian tactical fighter jets still achieve limited impact on Ukrainian soil, the lack of reliable, sustainable, and accurate operational-level offensive capability is arguably one of Russia's most significant capabilities gaps in Ukraine. Even though Kiev's air defense capabilities are limited, it has improved a lot in the past 8 months in land operations and is carrying out a legendary operation in Kherson. One of the most painful losses of the Russian army is being experienced in Kherson these days. A senior Russian-appointed official in Ukraine attributed the country's military failures to incompetence and corruption in the upper echelons of the Kremlin's defense apparatus. Kirill Stremisov, the deputy leader of Ukraine's Kherson region, which is largely occupied by Russia, working in Moscow, attributed the military losses in his jurisdiction to incompetent commanders who were not arrested, in a sharp 4-minute video posted on the encrypted messaging application. Stremosov's comments came at a time when Kiev was successfully advancing its campaign to retake parts of southern and eastern Ukraine that Russia had captured in the first weeks of the war. Pro-Russian propagandists and military analysts blamed the losses on what they saw as the faults of the Russian military, but few Russian-appointed officials on Ukrainian soil openly deflected Moscow's fervent war effort. Stremosov claimed that a small number of what he called corrupt looters and various other ragtags were responsible for the gaps on the battlefield. He chose Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, saying that he allowed this situation to happen. Members of the Russian parliament and regional officials have begun to level up similar criticisms of the Russian military, claiming that not enough troops have been deployed to hold the eastern and southern Ukraine regions that Russian forces had captured in the first weeks of the conflict. The head of the Russian State Duma Defense Committee, Colonel General Andrei Kartopolov, said authorities should stop lying about the developments on the ground. Not only bureaucrats in the Kremlin, but also autonomous region administrators in the Russian Federation support the reactions of the generals in the Russian army. Chechnya leader Ramazan Kadyrov has been criticizing Russian generals for a very long time. Chechnya leader Kadyrov criticized Russia's withdrawal from the strategic eastern city of Liman in the Donetsk region. Kadyrov, an important ally of President Vladimir Putin, said that Russian troops were not provided with the necessary communications, interaction, and ammunition. Kadyrov also states that thousands of Russian soldiers died due to the incompetence of the Russian commanders. Russian generals are also held responsible for the losses in Kherson. A Ukrainian military spokesman said the Ukrainian army made significant gains in Kherson last week and liberated more than 400 square kilometers in an unspecified time frame. Although Russian commanders denied this, he said in satellite images that the Ukrainian armed forces advancing in Kherson were very close to liberating the west bank of the Dnipro River again. 60,000 Ukrainian soldiers attacked in Kherson, and it is now considered certain that Kherson will rejoin Ukrainian territory. The Russian army was stunned in the first Kherson offensive 3 weeks ago and had to retreat behind 2 defense lines, suffering heavy losses. On the 1st of October, the Ukrainian army attacked with 6 tank battalions and several motorized and artillery battalions with around 10,000 soldiers. Now the Ukrainians are going to break through the Russian defense lines with a huge 60,000-man offensive army to liberate Kherson. Even the preparation of this gigantic offensive frightened Putin's deputies in the region. The so-called governor of Kherson, appointed by the Kremlin, demanded evacuation. Currently, civilians are being evacuated in Kherson, and a major conflict is approaching. In addition, hundreds of Russian soldiers in the region are trying to escape, and many of them surrender to Ukraine at the first opportunity. As the Russian army desperately surrenders, Putin's fictitious power kingdom seems to be beginning to crumble. Thanks for watching.